I'm going to share my screen now and see. Okay. So let's see if we can do this. No. We can have form of presentation where comments are visible. No, do not allow. This is recording you. I'll have to edit it out. Okay. I don't know. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our hematology class. You know, my name is Mohammed Chalo, and I'm an instructor for this course. Firstly, I'd like to apologize for the delay in having these lectures recorded. It's been a very difficult situation trying to settle down and, have this thing sent to you. But at least now we're going to have our first lecture, and hopefully you benefit from that. So this lecture, the immunology for this semester will be, the lectures will be delivered online. Most of the exams and quizzes will be offline. Of course, there will be some quizzes and assignments that you have to do and submit online via email, but most of it will be offline, most of the exams. So there will be times when you'll be required to come on campus, to come to a class, and you'll be sitting for your exam. And major exams such as the midterm and the finals will be scheduled on campus. So please be aware of that. Now, the first thing we want to do in this lecture is to try to understand what is hematology. I know a lot of us have heard of hematology, but firstly, you want to know about the hema, which means blood, and then tology is talking about the study of blood, right? So here, as a definition, they say hematology is the medical specialty, right? Hematology is the study or a medical specialty that focuses on studying, right, diagnosing, treating, and preventing disorders that are related to blood and the circulatory system that are associated with that. So here's a bulky and a very, very heavy definition of hematology. But if you take your time to read it, you'll understand that everything about it has to do with blood, right? The first thing. And then in that definition, they also incorporated what I talk about diagnosing. So the first thing is about the studying of the blood. We study the blood, and then we diagnose the blood, we treat the blood, and we also use that in the study of hematology to prevent disorders here talks about diseases, or sometimes there are some faulty things that can happen to the blood that lead to diseases, and that also comes from, or is also associated with some circulatory systems, right? Because we know it's a circulatory system that is responsible to transport blood from one area of the body to another, right? So studying hematology without mentioning the circulatory system will be a sin. So hematology is essential for understanding diseases that affect the blood, the bone marrow, the lymphatic system, and other tissues that are related to, other tissues that are related to the human body and the blood as well. So here I have two photographs. Here I have two photographs. One on this right-hand side shows some red blood cells, as well as another white blood cell. And for the most part, most of the time, people think that hematology is all about studying of red blood cells. No, hematology is the study of all of the bloods, right? So if you remember, we have white blood cells as well as red blood cells. So hematology is not just about the red blood cell you see, it also has to do with the white blood cells. But then the studying of white blood cells is even more advanced, and that sub-branch that focuses only on the white blood cells is called immunology. So immunology is the study of the immune system, and the immune system is part of hematology because it's also a blood, right? But hema here is talking about that heme, the one that is responsible to make the blood red, right? That iron that is available there. But overall, hematology focuses both on red and white blood cells, okay? Now, on the other side of the image, you can see a scientist sitting down holding different types of tubes with blood in them. So in the lab, most of the time when people are studying blood, they put them in these tubes. These tubes have two types. They have the ones that have what we call the anticoagulant, and then we have ones that can coagulate the blood. Coagulation means making the blood to stick together. And then the anticoagulant is the one that helps the blood stay afloat, stay liquid. And it also even helps the blood under certain temperatures. Anticoagulants can help you separate the blood, separate the serum from the plasma, from the other cells and tissues that are associated with the blood. So if you are a hematologist, this is how you will be in the lab and then working with tubes with things like this. I hope we have understood or gotten the definition of hematology and what it means. So we're still on the introduction to hematology as a discipline, right? So now let's talk about the key aspects of hematology. The key aspect of hematology mostly has to do with blood composition and functionality. What is composed of blood? What are the compositions of blood? And what are the functions of these different types of blood or these different aspects of blood? So study of cellular and biochemical components of blood, right, is important when it comes to hematology, and the importance in transporting oxygens, nutrients, hormones, and immune cells. Remember, I told you, the blood, of course, we know that the blood is highly responsible when it comes to transporting oxygen, nutrients, and hormones, but some part of that blood is also the immune system. So they have the immune cells. So we're going to take a dive at these different types of blood cells right here to give us an idea of what I was just talking about. So right here, you have a whole blood. The whole blood is one that contains everything, every component, everything that is available within the blood. It is what we call the whole blood. Let's say, for example, you just take, if you sustain an injury, that red stuff you see coming in, it contains both the red and the white blood cells. And sometimes, even if you remember that when you sustain an injury, the first thing you see a white liquid coming, right? And then later on, you see a red one coming. So the white one is the white blood cells that usually come and protect that area before the red blood cells can come. But there are some instances when both the red blood cell and the white blood cells are together. That is when you draw your blood, you have some deficits of your white and red blood cells, both present in that whole blood. So that is what we refer to as whole blood. Now, under this whole blood, we have some differences. So remember, this is just an introduction to hematology. We just want to get the whole broader picture of this whole hematology thing that I've been talking about. Hematology, the study of blood, right? So let's break down this whole blood and all the small, small babies that this blood has. And if we are done doing that, then we can go down to the other parts. We discuss what are the diseases that are associated with hematology, what are the genetic defects of hematology. But before we go to all of that, let's try to get a bigger picture of the whole thing. And this is what you see right here. This is the diagram of that. Okay, then we'll start with this. The whole blood is divided into two parts. We have the plasma, and then we have the formed elements. Formed elements are things that are made from the whole blood. They are not there. They are only made based on need. When they are required, they are made. But the plasma, these are things that are always present in the blood. These are elements that are formed under the plasma. So for example, in your blood, you have amino acids. And you know, most of us will know what are amino acids, right? We have nutrients, we have proteins, we have gases, we have electrolytes, we have nitrogenous waste. All of these things are present in the plasma. So under this, we also have proteins. And under proteins, we have albumins, globulins, and fibrinogen. These are very, very important. As we go forward in this course, I'll try to tell you what are the important of, especially fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is very, very essential when it comes to blood clotting. All right, we'll discuss it and then we'll talk about the mechanism of how fibrinogen helps prevent or how fibrinogen, function in terms of blood clotting. We'll talk about that in the future. Now, all of these guys fall under the plasma, and then the formed elements are elements that are derived, as a result of need in the human body. And for these ones, we have the platelets. Platelets also are important when it comes to blood clotting, right? Such same as the fibrinogen. And also we have the leukocytes and erythrocytes. So the erythrocytes are there. They are mostly formed with the red blood cells. And then we also have the leukocytes. And these leukocytes are there to form mostly about the white blood cells. Okay, the white blood cells. And under these leukocytes, we have granulocytes. And then we have agranulocytes. The ones that are granulocytes mainly they means they have a granule. Usually when you look at their structure, you see some of that dots there. That's why they are called granulocytes. And then you have the agranulocytes, which are the ones that do not have a granule. Some of the small dot can be inside. We'll try to look at all of these blood cells and just remember the terminologies right now. As time goes, when we show the pictures, you'll see how beautiful it looks and you get to know what we are talking about. So under the granulocytes, we have the neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils. Under the agranulocytes, we have the lymphocytes and the monocytes. All right. These are all of these ones that are in green here. They are part of the white blood cells. They are part of the immune system. Please remember that. All the green ones are part of the white blood cells and they are part of the immune system. So this is the whole blood. This is everything about hematology. This is everything about the blood composition. Now we've looked at blood composition and their functionality. Here we say the whole blood is composed of all of these things here. Individually, they have their own function. We know what are the functions of amino acids, right? They are the building blocks of proteins. We know what are nutrients. We have different types of nutrients we need and vitamins and stuff like that, right? We know what electrolytes are. They help. We get electrolytes from the water. We get electrolytes from the sun. We know what are gases. We need them. We need nitrogenous wastes, right, in the blood. And these are all important aspects. We know their functions in our body, right? So that is it about the whole blood composition and functionality in hematology. So from today on, at least you know some things that are associated with your blood, and you know some of them, their functions, at least if it is not in detail, but from the introductory aspect of it. Now let's move. In immunology, in hematology, one key aspect of hematology is the process called hematopoiesis. All right. So hematopoiesis is technically how blood is formed. Hema, again, blood. Topoiesis is the development of blood. Now, the process of blood formation happens in the bone marrow. The bone, you remember when you take the chicken bone, right? Or whatever bone it is that you are eating, they have certain area there where certain thing is in there. It's black-like, and when you chew in it, you can enjoy it very much, right? That is what we call the marrow. That is called the red bone marrow. It is where the red blood cells, it is where blood cells are developed. Okay. Now, we also have the stem cell differentiation into various cells. So when the blood is developed right here, when it comes out, it is called a stem cell, or it's a hematopoietic cell. A hematopoietic cell is a cell that have the ability to become anything. Okay, it has the ability to become any type of blood cell. So it is not yet specific. It is just like you born a baby or you are pregnant person, and then the pregnancy still doesn't indicate whether it's a boy or a girl, or nowadays we get some people that say they're not boy, they're not gay, right? So that's it. I don't want to talk about that. But uh, first thing I want you to know is hematopoiesis is the development of blood, right? Blood cells. Where does it happen? In the bone marrow. Okay, now we know what hematopoiesis is. It's the development of babies, and these babies are red blood cells. Where does it happen? In the womb. What part of the womb? We say in the bone marrow, right? The bone marrow in this case is the womb. So what do they produce? They produce a stem cell. A stem cell is the first thing that is produced. So once a stem cell is produced, this stem cell have the ability to become anything. They have the ability to become these three things. Remember, again, if we go back to the last slides, we talk about lymphocytes, which are red blood cells. We talk about erythrocytes. I told you these are red blood cells, and we talk about platelets, and these are thrombocytes, right? So now this stem cell in hematology have the ability to become any of these three things. The white blood cells, which is used for defense system in our body, is there to protect us against infection and against diseases, or that is when it is required, when it is needed to be an immune cell, it is developed, this stem cell directly become an immune cell. Let's say, for example, if you have COVID, or if you have a hepatitis infection, any blood cell that is developed from here goes strictly to become a white blood cell and go fight that infection. But if you are a malnourished person, you need nutrients. When a blood is developed from the bone marrow, it becomes a red blood cell. And we know red blood cells are there to carry nutrients and oxygen and other essential materials for our body, right? But also they have platelets or thrombocytes. Let's say, for example, you have a cut somewhere, and then you need platelets to go there and deliver some form of fibrinogen or something to help blood clot, right? Sometimes this hematopoietic stem cell will go on to become a platelet on its own. So now we understand the terminology of hematopoiesis, right? Okay. I don't know if you're still with me. Uh, okay. Jacob, are you still there? You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
following.
Okay. So if you have any question, you can just signal me. Okay.
Okay.
Is the explanation going well? I mean, is it too fast or
Yeah.
okay?
No, it's okay.
All right. Okay. So let's move. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is blood disorders. We are still looking at key aspects in hematology, right? We are looking at the hematopoiesis. First of all, we talk about blood, right? How it's developed and what does it become after it's developed. So we'll talk about blood disorders as well, which is another aspect of hematology. Hematology also look at diseases when blood become a disordered blood. When disorder means you're not functioning the way you are supposed to, or you are not developed, you are not born the way, you are not developed the way you are supposed to. So then it becomes a disorder. And here you see several diseases that are associated with blood disorders. The first one you see is anemia, right? Anemia is a kind of blood disease. And then we have hemoglobinopathies. That is, when a disease is associated with, the eyes, that kind of blood disease that give you, it's a hemoglobin disease that is associated with heart, with the eyes. And so we also have clotting disorders. We have bleeding disorders. So these are all different types of diseases that are associated with, hematology, with blood disorder, with blood. And we have crucial for effective diagnosis and treatment. It is a study of blood disorders. So hematology also focuses on anemia. It focuses on the hemoglobinopathies. It focuses on clotting disorders. It focuses on blooding disorders, bleeding disorders. And hematology is also crucial for effective diagnosis and treatment of blood diseases. So here you can look at the symptoms of anemia, right? Anemia is a disease that is associated with blood. Anytime you see anemia, it means it is a disease that is associated with blood. So in anemia, you can have leukemia, you can have different types of, diseases. Okay. So red is in severe anemia. So for example, you have in the central peripheral nervous system or in the central system in the head, you have fatigue when you have an anemia, right? You have fainting, right? When this thing can happen. Also here, we have chest pain. In the heart, a person with anemia, also severe anemia, a person with severe anemia, right, will have chest pain, they'll have angina, which is shortness of breath, they'll have heart attack, right? These are also other conditions that are associated with anemia, but the red ones are the ones with severe anemia. But if you look at this picture on the side, you look at another blood disorder. So if you look here, you see there are two different shapes of blood. They have one that is round and they have one that is shaped like a moon, right? Like a half moon. And the ones that are shaped with like a half moon is sometimes called sickle cell, right? If you know, I mean, most of us, we've heard a lot about sickle cell anemia, right? Um, so mostly it is when the blood is the shape of the blood has changed from its normal round shape and becomes anemic because it's unable to carry anything, no form of oxygen, no nutrients, or nothing. So it becomes anemic. So if you look here, you see this blood shape is in a sickle shape. Sickle means it looks like in a moon. That's how when they discovered, that's they say that's the name they give it, and they have the round one. So this is a blood disorder. Now, in a situation or a blood vessel where you have both these two available, that particular person will suffer a lot of disease conditions because blood circulation will not be going as it's supposed to, because the sickle ones will tend to block the blood vessels, allowing the normal blood cells not to properly flow through. So these are blood disorders. These are different types of blood diseases associated with hematology. The hematology can also study these things. Now, we also have hematologic malignancies. Malignancies mainly and talk about cancer. All right. Now, we have leukemia. All right. It's a kind of blood cancer. We have lymphoma. We have myeloma. Sorry for the difficult names, but as we proceed, you get to know more about this. So abnormal cell growth within blood and bone marrow is also another malignancy. All right. So let's talk about leukemia. In leukemia, it's also a blood cancer. So here you see leukemia, technically it is okay. So the sickle cell is actually caused when there is a genetic defect and there's a substitution in the amino acid sequence because all of these blood cells have genetic sequences associated. Bloods are proteins. So there are amino acids that make up these proteins. And these proteins, there's an individual amino acid substitution that takes place that causes sickle cell anemia. And when that happens, right, the blood now loses its ability to be round, it loses its shape. So we have, by right, you need 10 bricks to build a house. And all of these bricks needs to have a specific shape. One brick or two bricks are there, substituted a change. Instead of having 10 centimeter or 10 by 6 inches, it has a change to 6 by 3 inches. So that alters the house. You just say, that house will no longer be straight. So as a result, a house will be shaped differently. So that is what happened. There's an amino acid substitution that happened, a point mutation that happened in the amino acid sequence that code for this blood vessel. So when the substitution happened, that's a form of mutation, it's a substitution mutation happen, the blood takes a different shape. It takes that sickle shape. And when it takes that sickle shape, it is no longer in the position to take oxygen or to take nutrients. Why? Because the structure changed. You see this round one here, it is properly shaped, it has more space to take up more things. But this one that is sickle, like it look like a kwashiorkor blood, right? It's too dry. It is too small. It is too narrow. It doesn't take nutrients anymore. It doesn't take oxygen. It doesn't have the capacity to do that. So that is why people with sickle cell anemia they don't have enough oxygen, right? Oxygen doesn't flow to their tissues, nutrients doesn't flow there as well. So they need continuous blood transfusion. Okay, so that's what happened. It's a genetic mutation. That's what causes that. So now let's come to this leukemia, lymphoma, and myeloma. These are different types of blood cancers. Anytime you hear this leukemia, lymphoma, myeloma, all blood cancers. And these two are as a result of genetic mutation. Okay, so for leukemia, we have the normal blood cells that are here. And when this particular person has leukemia, then what happens is that you see two different things here. You see these purple ones and this red one. The purple ones are immune cells. They are immune cells, okay? They are immune cells. And then here, where you have leukemia, it is when the blood cells start to die, okay? You have the immune cells are now starting to kill the red blood cells. So this particular person come down with the amount of red blood cells that they have, it reduces. So this particular person will have what we call leukemia, which is a kind of blood cancer. And then we also have lymphoma. Lymphoma is also a form of, blood cancer, where we have this is a healthy blood tissue, but then over time, due to a genetic mutation, the blood tissue start to fold. And by folding, it means it doesn't perform its function very well. And we also have myeloma. Myeloma, it is when white blood cells, such as B cells, start to attack healthy blood cells. They produce plasma cells. These are normal antibodies, and these antibodies tends to go and damage the white blood cells. So they attack their own, blood cells. So that is when myeloma happens. So all of these things are disease conditions that happen in people in everyday life. Good. So now another key aspect of hematology is transfusion medicine. Hematology is very, very essential when it comes to blood transfusion or in transfusion medicine. So stop this video. If not, it will hide this slide. So the key aspect and transfusion medicine. So hematology is very, very instrumental when it comes to blood transfusion. So before transfusion can take place, they will ask a hematologist to monitor the blood. Remember, only probably in our country where people can just go, they only check for HIV and AIDS. If you get HIV, you get hepatitis, they say, okay, you can give blood. But no, hematologist is supposed to be present to monitor the blood transfusion process. Why? Because not all blood types are compatible, right? And another thing is the prevention of adverse reaction. Let's say, for example, they take a blood that is not compatible with your body and transfuse it into you. You have something they call hypersensitivity or an allergic reaction. And what that means is your immune system will try to react to that particular blood. They will see it as a foreign body. They will see it as something that is harmful to the system. All right. Why? Because that blood does not belong to you. The genetic information does not match that blood that is being transfused into you. So hematologists are the ones that are able to determine or to investigate as to whether this blood is the best for you or not. And then we also have hematology is important when it comes to coagulation and thrombosis. Coagulation, like when blood vessels start to clump together and form clots. And this is very important because study of the blood clotting and blood formation is important. That is knowing when blood clot is supposed to take place and when blood clot is not supposed to take place. Blood clot is important and it is also dangerous. Let's say, for example, if I have a cut, if my blood doesn't clot, if I have an injury, if my blood doesn't clot, right, it means I'll bleed to death. That is why blood clotting is important. Second, if I have too much blood clot, if I have excessive blood clot, let's say the protein that is responsible to carry on blood clotting in me is too high, I will die. Why? Because the blood will be clotting in the blood vessels. And you know, if the blood clot in the blood vessels, let's just imagine a camel that is clogged. When a camel is clogged, what happens? It starts to spill outside, right? So clotting, excess clotting in blood vessels will cause someone to die out of heart attack because the heart will be pumping the blood and the blood will not be going where it's supposed to. So the force that the heart is sending to the blood, for the blood to go, that force is coming back. So for every action, there's equal and opposite reaction. So that is why excess blood clotting in the body is not also good. It's harmful. It kills. So this thing needs to be moderated. Okay. Let's go to the next one. And another key aspect is hemostasis. All right. The body's process of stopping bleeding. Body's balance between clot formation and dissolution. That's what I was just explaining, right? To maintain when blood is supposed to clot and when it's not supposed to clot. Because let's say, for example, you have a blood clot. You're trying to take blood, transfuse blood, you're trying to donate blood, and your blood has high clotting factor. So once you start taking it, as you're removing it, then it's just freezing and then clotting. That blood is no longer useful. It should be dissolved as well as it should have the ability to clot when time comes. And then we also have immunohematology. That is the immune response to blood-related antigens, just like we saw, right? And relevance in blood transfusion, organ transplantation. So immunohematology is studying how the immune system works with blood transfusion or organ transplantation. Blood transfusion, like I told you, when they take a blood that is not compatible with you, they transfuse it in you, your immune system will react heavily to that. Immune system will kill all of those blood cells and tell them, look, you do not belong in here. You are not from me. You come from another person. So in order to carry on blood transfusion, they need to make sure these two bloods are compatible. You have the same blood type. That way, the immune system will not react to it. Immunohematology also talk about blood organ transplantation. Most of the time, when there are transfusion, let's say heart transplantation, liver transplantation, they need to know that this organ that is being brought in should be compatible. Most of the time, you may not have a heart that is compatible. So what do they do in this case? They need to take what we call an immunosuppressive drug. That is, if you take the liver, you take another person's liver, you give it to me, my immune system will be fighting to kill that liver. Why? Because I was not born with that liver. It is a liver that has been transfused from another person to me. So my immune system said, no, this is not me. This does not belong to me, so I will kill it. So how do we control that? There's a medication called immunosuppressive drugs. So these drugs are, they are produced specifically to target the immune cells that respond to that kind of thing. So the army that is responsible to go and kill that liver, you take the medication to prevent that from happening. You tell the army, "Mama, cool down, cool down. This liver is not here to harm us." Okay. And then you continue to take that particular medication for the rest of your life. So that is the side effect of having, uh, transplantation, like organ transplantation. So otherwise, as soon as you take it, people who organ are transplanted, they don't live long. That is because over time, the immune system will still find a way to bypass that drug and then kill that organ. And once that organ is dead, it's either you get new organ or you wrap it. Okay. The historical overview in hematology. Now, hematology started way, way, way before, modern technology. So the first thing that used to happen was ancient civilization. In ancient Egypt, the ancient Egyptians recognized the importance of blood, believing it to be the seat of the soul. That's why in most areas, blood is considered a sacred thing, right? They also practice bloodletting as a medical treatment. Bloodletting is certain time people have certain diseases during ancient Egyptian time, They say, okay, if you get this particular infection, is this disease, is to let blood go, is to click on you, juke you, and allow your blood to just go. A certain amount of blood they will remove from you, and then all of a sudden you get better. That was their belief. It's called our procedure is called bloodletting. And also in ancient India and Greek, like the chakra and Hippocrates, they made observation about blood and its role in the body. So this was long, long time ago. Now, in the 17th, 18th centuries, there were two scientists. We have William Harvey's discovery of the circulation of blood. It was when blood was discovered by William Harvey in the 17th century, which laid the foundation for the understanding of blood's role in the body. We also have Antoine van Leeuwenhoek's invention of the microscope in the 17th century that allowed for the observation of blood cells. So these are some historical perspective or historical events that happened. In the 19th century, we have Rudolf Virchow, which proposed the theory of all cells arise from pre-existing cells, right? He said all cells are from pre-existing cells, which is true, which is what we see today, which led to the concept of cellular pathology. Now, blood transfusion experiments were conducted, but it wasn't until the early 20th century that blood typing and cross-matching were better understood. Before, people used to use a lot of blood transfusion, and you see how they used to do it by then. You have one person connected here, they'll collect the blood from this person and then connect it to the other person. That's the way. But it was late in the 20th century that scientists got to realize that, oh, we cannot just take one person's blood and give it to another person. We need to understand if these people have the same blood type. And that was in the 20th century. It was just a recent thing. I think you and I were already alive then, right? Okay. And okay, this is just, I think, a repetition of the slide, and that is it for today. Um, I hope this lecture it's just an introduction, and if you have any question moving forward, please make sure to ask this question in the class. For those of you who are here with me, maybe you can ask your questions if you have some. Hello? I have Zoom user, and then I have Jacob. Is there any question you might want to ask? Hello? Okay, so if you don't have any question, we can call it a day. I have the recording sent to the group and uploaded to the YouTube. I'll upload it to the Google Drive, share the Drive link with you, and I'll also upload it to YouTube. You have access to it in addition to the notes. Thank you very much. I see you then.